refused to answer concerning corruption at the Liberals' billion-dollar green slush fund known as SDTC. An independent fact-finding report reveals a cloud of mismanagement, conflicts of interest, and self-dealing at SDTC. The report found, among other things, that the board improperly paid out nearly $40 million in so-called COVID relief payments, including funneling millions of dollars to companies that board members had an interest in. The chair of SDTC, during questioning before the Ethics Committee, was forced to admit that she funneled $220,000 to her own company and then funneled $120,000 of that into her own personal bank account. And she even moved the motion at the board. Incredibly, she claimed it was all okay because she and the board had received legal advice. It turns out that the lawyer who provided that legal advice is none other than a member of the SDTC Council. In other words, the lawyer was providing legal advice about conflicts of interest when he himself had a conflict of interest. And in providing that advice and being paid for that advice by SDTC, as he was, the law was broken because Section 16 of the SDTC Act prohibits any member of the SDTC Council from profiting from SDTC. And yesterday, we learned that another board member at SDTC had funneled a staggering $42.5 million of taxpayers' money into 4 companies that she had an interest in. She enriched herself to the tune of $42.5 million. It's unbelievable. And it appears that it only scratches the surface of corruption and mismanagement at SDTC because, according to whistleblowers, the level of corruption and self-dealing exceeds $150 million of taxpayers' money squandered. Madam Speaker, despite the well-documented corruption and mismanagement involving tens upon tens upon tens of millions of dollars of taxpayers' money, no one has been held accountable. The chair resigned, but not at the request of the minister, and the minister continues to stand behind the corrupt SDTC board. Why? Why is the minister more interested in protecting Liberal insiders who got rich improperly at the expense of taxpayers rather than rooting out the rot and corruption at the Liberals' Green Slush Fund?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, the Government House Leader.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm happy to respond to the comments made earlier by the member from St. Albert, Edmonton, regarding the Sustainable Development Technology Canada. Madam Speaker, I feel that it is important to reiterate and stick to the facts of this case. First, the minister took immediate action to initiate a fact-finding exercise through an impartial third party. That exercise found no clear evidence of deliberate unethical behavior. There were, however, several incidences in which the organization was not in full compliance with its contribution agreement. Second, to address the inconsistency, including the conflict of interest, the organization has been asked to comply with several corrective measures by December 31st. Out of an abundance of caution, financing for all new projects has been temporarily frozen until these measures are in place. SDTC has committed to implementing the corrective measures requested by us on an expedited timeline. Everyone involved is eager to get back to supporting Canadian business. Third, we now have in place an independent legal review by the firm McCarthy, Terrell Tetrault to examine human resource allegations brought forward by current and former employees of the organization. SDCC has agreed to allow these employees to speak freely without violating any applicable settlement agreements or non-disclosure agreements. Fourth, although I know that the party opposite likes to take credit for the AG's decision to conduct an audit since the allegations came to light, we have been in dialogue with the Office of the Auditor General on this matter. We welcome the Auditor General's decision to conduct the audit. We will await her report on this matter, which will be informed whether further action is necessary. Finally, the decisions of the chair of the SDTC's board and its president to resign were personal ones. It is for us to follow due process and await the results of the AG's audit before making any pronouncements. Taking a step back, and in considerations of the facts of the matter, as I have laid them out, I am confident that we are on the right path with the implementation of the corrective measures, the pending OAG audit, the HR review, and the reinvigorated leadership at the organization. We can refocus efforts on supporting our Canadian innovators in the clean tech sector. Madam Speaker, I take it very seriously when we talk about the Auditor General of Canada and the actions that the government has taken to date. I think should provide a very high level of comfort to people that would be following this debate, that the government is very much aware of it and taking direct actions to resolve it. A little bit disappointed in the member across the way, as the member and his colleague just prior asked a totally different question in another area. And again, the fascination that the Conservative Party has on words like corruption and scandal. They continuously want to raise it. I understand why they like those two words. I understand it a lot, Madam Speaker. But the bottom line is the government of the day is very much aware of it. And is indeed continuing to monitor, and as I indicated to the previous question, is in a position to look at the recommendations and to ultimately follow through when those recommendations are brought forward.
For St. Albert, Edmonton.
Madam Speaker, I'm glad that the parliamentary secretary confirmed that the resignation of the chair of the SDTC was a personal decision that she made, not at the direction of the minister. The same chair who funneled $220,000 into her own company and then transferred $120,000 of that into her personal bank account. That is corruption. And yet that didn't meet the level for the minister to call on her to resign. If that level of corruption doesn't suffice to call for the resignation, what does?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. The government is, and where I disagree, you see, the member opposite and the Conservative Party look at this whole issue as being one of a slush fund. And it's not the first time they used the word slush fund. You'll remember, Madam Speaker, they also used the word slush fund for Canada's child care plan, which saw a massive reduction in child care costs for Canadians from coast to coast to coast as all provinces and territories signed on with the government. Again, we have a substantial fund here that's there to support business. The Conservatives say that they support businesses, and often what I find is they'll say one thing, but their actions demonstrate something entirely different. I wish the